I want a meeting with all the remaining heads. We need to stabilize this situation before it spirals out of control.
But wouldn't that candidate have emerged by now? That's the question that remains for so many people. Is that candidate even out there?
Describe their ideal candidate. It turns out most voters want somebody who is a fighter. Bare-knuckled brawler would do well in this race. An outsider, somebody who is not afraid to take on the establishment.
Which works against the career politicians. There are legitimate problems in the city right now, and the voters want somebody who understands the pain they're going through.
There's no doubt it is late in the process, but there's still a window of opportunity. That's what the poll is telling us. It could be anybody's race.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. They just released the Echo series. This will be my video for the post-credit scene, the ending, basically a big Daredevil Born Again teaser, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the videos. They just started reshooting Daredevil Born Again, like Vincent D'Onofrio was talking about them getting ready to work on episodes, so we'll get more footage from the actual series pretty soon. Echo is basically meant to set that up. Careful for spoilers from the ending of Echo if you haven't seen it yet. I do have a longer video planned for Easter eggs from the entire series. This video will just be for the ending, the post-credit scene, like how it sets up Daredevil Born Again. So in the final episode, Echo has essentially unlocked her cosmic powers that she gets biologically from her ancestors, the original Choctaw Native Americans. I know there are going to be a ton of questions about how her powers work, like who are these people, what is going on inside this cave. This is meant to be the MCU adaptation of the real-life Choctaw Nation's origin story myth. So in real life, the Choctaw have their own creation myth, and this is them basically saying that in the MCU, the Choctaw actually came from this alternate dimension based on the Choctaws' real-life beliefs. They just tuned it up a little bit, made it a little bit more cosmic for the MCU version. Like during the series, you keep seeing her ancestor Chafa here, who was a different type of being that was transformed into a human when she was knocked into the main dimension. Like she existed in this other little pocket dimension here before it was destroyed. Know there'll be a lot of questions about that too. Right now, it seems like that has something to do with the Kang Multiverse War. So there's a little bit of crossover because we're all heading up to Avengers Secret Wars, and so everything is meant to connect finally by Secret Wars, which is why I think that is what is happening here that destroyed this pocket dimension, throwing all of her ancestors into the main dimension. The way they depict her powers, they seem like Captain America level, just a little tuned up, like she has the ability to throw people into their memories, to heal people, but it's not something on the level of, say, like Thor's powers. But the whole idea at the ending here is that she basically rejects Kingpin in his violence, tries to genuinely help him to her credit, even though it seems like he's just completely shaken by it. He winds up taking off at the end of the series just because he's so messed up by having to revisit his childhood trauma. But if it wasn't clear, he leaves of his own volition, like he's not trying to kill Echo or force her to come back anymore. So basically, she is free for the most part. Probably still wanted by the law for a bunch of murders that she committed for Kingpin back in the day, though. She killed a lot of people for Kingpin. They basically end the series, though, with a Fast and Furious-style family dinner, like all about family. Post all the memes. When we get to the actual post-credits scene, though, this is meant to be the big Daredevil Born Again teaser. You see Kingpin on his jet ready to fly back home to New York City, ordering a meeting with the remaining heads of all the crime families in New York, who essentially work as his underbosses, like Kingpin is meant to be the boss of bosses in New York. I know there are a lot of questions about how powerful he was during the events of Hawkeye because of the 5-year time jump, like what happened during that. There are a couple flashbacks during the series to the events of the 5-year time jump. They revealed that Kingpin did not get snapped, so he was around during that entire period, and it sounds like he gained a lot of the city's territory during that period, like he took over a lot of the crime families. On the jet, the situation that he references that's in danger of spiraling out of control is the fallout that's been happening to his organization since the events of the Hawkeye series. He sees the broadcast about the upcoming race for mayor of New York City and is inspired to run when the broadcasters say that there's no strong candidate, the city's in dire need of someone who understands the plight of the people and the best way to fix the city. Somebody who's a bare-knuckle brawler who isn't afraid to fight with the other career politicians. And in the comics, Kingpin actually is a champion fighter. He's just way, way bigger in the comics, so he's way more physically powerful. When he leans in and they play that ominous music, the whole idea is that he believes he knows the right way to fix New York City, like his way is the best way, as you would expect Kingpin to believe. But essentially that amounts to him running New York like his own personal playground fantasy, doing whatever he deems to be right and trying to get rid of anybody that he doesn't like. namely the heroes, vigilantes like Daredevil, Spider-Man, Punisher. So part of the idea is that when Daredevil Born Again picks up, he'll be running for mayor, like he'll be in the middle of running for mayor during those early episodes. I think I talked about this all the way back when the Hawkeye episodes were happening a couple years ago, because they've had this plot in place for a while. Like they wanted to foreshadow Kingpin eventually becoming mayor of New York City like he did in the comics during the Devil's Reign era. Part of the idea is that he runs for mayor on an anti-vigilante campaign and uses that as an excuse to go after people like Daredevil, Spider-Man, Punisher. Those are the vigilante-level characters, street-level characters. It's part of this whole Marvel Phase 5 Dark Reign era going on in the MCU. Thunderbolt Ross is doing that with the office of a US president. Like he does it on a national level. The whole idea is that on a street level, things are kind of thrown into chaos, like things just start going crazy, and you have a bunch of people like Thunderbolt Ross and Kingpin coming in saying that, no, I know how to fix things, but essentially they're ruling their territories, either New York City or the United States, with an iron fist, turning things into something akin to a police state. If you didn't read the Dark Reign era in the comics, essentially it's Norman Osborn who sort of takes over this kind of role. Like he takes over S.H.I.E.L.D., he takes over the Avengers, and replaces the traditional Avengers with a bunch of career criminals who are like more hardcore, stabby versions of the characters. Inside the MCU, they're kind of replacing that role with the Thunderbolts team. Vincent D'Onofrio was actually asked about this too, like what does Kingpin actually want to do? And the way he talks about it, he basically just says Kingpin is going to get whatever he wants, which he always does.
Kingpin is back for sure, and he's going to get what he wants like always. That's what's going to happen.
So that's the whole idea with Mayor Kingpin, like whether it's right or wrong in reality, if he thinks it's right, if he's something that he wants, he's going to do whatever it takes to actually get it. Getting to the whole Spider-Man of it all too, because there's been all this talk about Spider-Man 4 and Kingpin going up against Spider-Man, or Spider-Man teaming up with Daredevil against Kingpin at some point. So because Spider-Man movies tend to always have animal-themed villains, like really big, splashy, comic book level villains. So even though Kingpin is a longtime Spider-Man villain in the comics, like Spider-Man the animated series back in the 90s did a lot of Spider-Man versus Kingpin. They even had a Daredevil team-up episode where they teamed up against Kingpin. You have to imagine a live-action version of that happening. Even though that was a big thing for a long time in the comics, I don't think that Kingpin would be the main villain of something like Spider-Man 4 or even Spider-Man 5. But Kevin Feige did say that what happens during Daredevil Born Again, like this whole Mayor Kingpin story arc, will heavily influence what's happening during the events of Spider-Man 4. So if you played Spider-Man PS4, you have to imagine that Kingpin fight, like Spider-Man versus Kingpin, we might actually get a version of that during Spider-Man 4. Really early theory, the Kingpin might have something to do with hiring other Spider-Man villains to actually go after Spider-Man. Just by himself, though, MCU Kingpin isn't quite physically powerful enough to actually take on Spider-Man. In the comics, it's a little bit different. Like, he's way, way bigger, way stronger in the comics. And if it wasn't clear, when this Echo post-credit scene is happening, it's still the year 2025 in the MCU. And in present day of the MCU, like we passed Guardians of the Galaxy 3, that's all in 2026. So technically, this series is a bit of a flashback. I believe the events of Daredevil Born Again are meant to pick up during 2026 though, so like a little bit of time will have gone by after this post-credit scene. Vote for Kingpin, Mayor Fisk. You have to imagine his slogans all over the place. There was a little bit of Daredevil Born Again footage that actually released last year when they were still filming before the big strike happened, and there were a bunch of banners about voting for Fisk. Just imagine the tracksuit bros just placing flyers all over the place. Vote for a bro. Come on, bro. Trust a bro. We didn't really see any Punisher stuff going on during Echo, even though they used a lot of Punisher language, like no bad deed goes unpunished. Why would you use that language if you weren't going to reference the Punisher at all? But the Punisher is meant to come back during Daredevil Born Again. He'll be a main character during the series. I believe he's meant to be going after corrupt cops when the series picks up. But you all remember Daredevil Season 2, all the Punisher during that. You have to imagine that same kind of vibe again, except that they're working together a little bit more, but Punisher is also kind of doing his own thing on the side. The other really good news that you probably just saw in your feeds is that Marvel just canonized all the Marvel Netflix series to the MCU stuff that's happening right now. So if there was any question, all that Marvel Netflix Defender stuff is canon to the MCU. They literally just put all those shows in the MCU timeline on the Disney Plus page here too. They released a big trailer too with a bunch of footage just to hammer home that all this Daredevil stuff that happened during the original series is canon to what happens in present day now. They just restarted production on Daredevil Born Again. They got one of the showrunners from The Punisher and a bunch of the Loki writers to actually do the series now, which actually makes me way more excited about the series. Like, I was pumped up about a new Daredevil series, but when you hear the Punisher writers and the Loki writers are working on it, it just seems like they're going all out to make it amazing. The way things are going right now, though, it seems like they'll be able to premiere Daredevil Born Again before Spider-Man 4, which is why I think the Kingpin will be mayor of New York City when Spider-Man 4 eventually picks up. And because Daredevil, Kingpin are now officially back, I know there'll be lots of questions about the other Marvel Defenders characters like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist. We know that Luke Cage is not going to be recast, but Mike Coulter is super busy right now, booked on other TV series, so they're just waiting for him to become available again. Jessica Jones was supposed to come back earlier in Daredevil Born Again, but I think they delayed that, like they changed the story just a little bit, but she will be coming back eventually. And I just did a video about them actually bringing back the Iron Fist character, but they're actually supposed to bring back the ancient Iron Fist, like the very first Iron Fist in the timeline, not the Finn Jones version of Iron Fist from present day, the Danny Rand version. I know there are going to be a ton of questions about some of the things that they set up in this series, so I'll post my longer breakdown video of all the Easter eggs in the next day or so. Be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss any of that, and if you do have any specific questions, just post them in the comments below and I'll add them to that video. Everyone click here for that brand new Deadpool 3 teaser trailer video, and click here to learn about Iron Fist coming back in the MCU. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.